Oi!
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to warm it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you did it good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, happy Seattle week.
Yeah.
The 12 versus the Dogs.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play, right? I mean, it's gonna be weird. A lot of big question marks again this week for the Browns.
When isn't there a question mark? Let's be
It's a
honest.
big question mark this entire season. Deshaun Watson is not playing this week. It's PJ Walker again. Jerome Ford is out for 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah. But when we're talking about injuries, Seattle, also Kenneth Walker, Bobby Wagner, and Tyler Lockett have not practiced this week and are questionable. So today is Friday.
Ooh.
So, and I believe it was Kenneth Walker has a calf injury, which is a very tough injury for a running back, obviously. And then Lockett has hamstring, so it's a very tough injury for.
Sounds like we're banking on injuries.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think most teams playing us are banking on the same thing, right? So
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's going to be an interesting week. I think looking at it, the perspective of Seattle, I think they obviously have more pieces than we do, at least on offense. Geno has been playing up and down so far this year, but it's not bad. He's got a lot of guys. He's got a lot of receivers. Metcalf.
A lot of talent.
Yes. Metcalf was hurt last week. He should play this week. But when you look at, say Lockett plays, Metcalf plays, they still have Njigba, which is, 3 really good receivers. And as I said, Kenneth Walker has been a staple of that offense so far. He's a very big, strong back, and he runs with power, and he's very hard to tackle. And I personally have him on my fantasy team, so it's kind of like it's a love hate this week with him. But we'll see what happens there. But really, I think if we're able to shut down that run game, and really put it on Geno, then it kind of makes us a little bit better. The issue is that they have a very good balance of pass and run. Because I think Pete Carroll is such a good coach, one of the better coaches in the league. That his scheme is very nice.
Indeed. I like how you stated the good run pass balance. I mean, when you have a cast like that in the receiving core and the backfield,
yeah.
Geno Smith has really shined the last couple of years, and they're in Seattle saying Russell who. I think they made out on the deal, to be honest.
Holy crap, absolutely they did.
Geno has become one of my favorite players in the league because everybody wrote him off, and he was a Pro Bowler last year.
Yeah. Comeback player of the year last year. Exactly. He's had some hiccups this year, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 1,300 yards. But he still has a nice passer rating. It's in the 90s. So he, nothing has really changed. I think it's just he struggled early on in this year. But he's still the Geno Smith we saw last year rather than what we saw in the Jets.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't discount him at all.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I think a lot of the Seattle's offense is more leaning on the run.
Sure.
And Kenneth Walker, who's been great in his rookie year and the start of this season. Last week he had 160 yards. 120. The Browns just came off a game where they gave up 160 yards. But that was to a duo of Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, 2 backs that are, it might be the best running back duo in the league right now.
It's a nice tandem, yeah. And I will say Seattle doesn't have that.
Yeah.
That Kenneth Walker's a very good back, but what's his name?
DJ Dallas.
Yeah.
And then there's also Chabaret or
I can never say that.
It was a rookie they just drafted this year.
Yeah.
They haven't used him much. So with the possible like injury to Kenneth Walker, that could be huge.
What does it look like? How are they divvying up the runs? Right?
Yeah.
If it's kind of like a very limited role for Walker this week, then that can cause major problems and shake up and benefit us, obviously. But, we'll see. It could be, everyone's always kind of hurt, right?
Yeah.
So, he could come out here and play like Kenneth Walker always plays. So,
Yeah, if you're not hurt by this point in the season, they usually say then you're not playing that much or not playing hard enough.
Yeah.
So everybody's dinged up at this point. But when you go a whole week without practicing, that's always a big red flag when you're
Yeah.
pointing towards Sunday.
Especially since it is Friday and they didn't practice today. It's a big question mark because then it's like, all right, well, you haven't really done anything since the previous game, you know. So if you're out all week, you know, are you ready? Are you going to be fresh? I mean, probably more fresh
Yeah,
actually, but uh, as long as they study, I feel like they'd be
yeah.
fine.
And then the receiving core, I mean, they just found a new star in the Bobo kid from UCLA. I love the name. Oh, fantastic catch against the Cardinals last week that was overturned in the back of the end zone. Um, it just seemed like he was all over the place. Jackson Smith and Jigba had his first career touchdown last
Hmm.
week with the absence of DK Metcalf, who should be making his return this week.
Yeah, I believe he's scheduled to return this week.
Yeah, but also with, like you said, Tyler Lockett possibly missing time this week as well.
Yeah.
So the Browns secondary has really got to be prepared. But this is another game that I think it's going to come down to the trenches. Um, Seattle gave up 2 sacks last week to Arizona, who's a solid defense for being 1-6.
Yeah.
I think that's their strong point this year.
It's not saying much, but
They gave up 20% pressure, like pressure. They got pressured 20% of the time last week. That's what I wanted to say. But they got a big task in this Browns front seven.
yes.
That's been pretty good at getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
Especially last week.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, last week there was some things that happened that was unlike them, and they just kind of stopped during those free plays. That kind of makes the stats look a little skewed, but nonetheless, they did give up 38 points, which is a lot. So hopefully, this week has been talking about how we can fix those problems and how we beat Seattle. You know, it's a hope. I hope that's what they've been
This
doing.
this is a big test for the defense. You're on the road. You're most likely going to be on the field all game again.
Yeah.
You play a very smart quarterback in Geno Smith, who's had time to learn the game and see things. And I think in man coverage, this is where they might get burned by Geno because Geno is very mobile with the ball. He's not scared to take it and run. We saw last week that the Browns had trouble with Minshew mania, giving up over 300 yards in the air and 119 passer rating. I mean, he just picked us apart, and we might see the same thing. But this is a good week to bounce back.
Yeah.
You might we're praying for the injury bug to hit Seattle at the right time, where we don't have to worry about the run game and Kenneth Walker or the extra threat and one of the better receivers in the league in Tyler Lockett. So that takes away one more weapon away from Seattle. But moving to the offensive side of the ball,
Yeah.
we are Deshaunless again.
Again.
You know, quick vent here. The dude's hurt. Players get hurt.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move past the he doesn't want to play.
I think that idea of that is ridiculous. I agree. I think he's very much hurt, and when
It was very evident last week.
and
And
if you've been hurt and it's not something like an easy problem, he's talking about soreness and like stuff with like his cartilage inside of the rotator cuff. That's a tough injury to battle through because when you're talking about cartilage, you don't really know. I don't think the Browns knew. I don't think he really knew. It's a hard thing to diagnose. So it's one of those things where it really much is like, Deshaun, how do you feel? Can you throw the ball properly?
yeah,
And
even if this injury was, he could play through it, and he chose not to play. Put this into perspective on both sides. And I think the Browns are very much siding on the air of caution. The rotator cuff on your throwing arm,
yeah,
that's probably the most important part of your body as
Yeah,
as a
as a
quarterback.
quarterback, absolutely.
That's Deshaun's moneymaker.
Yeah.
The Browns paid the money for that shoulder.
Yeah.
So if they don't think it's a good idea to put them out there, even if they think he's ready to play, because
We saw
he's
last week they tried.
he's cleared to play. He's cleared to play, which is, I think this is where people are getting upset. He's cleared to play, but that doesn't mean you're completely healthy to play.
Baker Mayfield was clear to play.
Yeah, Baker had tore ligaments all across his shoulder, and we
Technically
we
cleared
ran
to play.
we ran him out of town.
Yeah.
So
Like, just be cautious. Like, it sucks. I know we don't like it. We want Deshaun to go out there and play well and play, right? But it's just not a thing right now. He's clearly hurt. Let him have his time to recover. I know it's been a while, but just maybe next week he'll be cool. Maybe in 2 weeks. I don't know. Like, honestly, Arizona next week, I'd prefer him maybe even sit out next week. Just be healthy. I'd rather have him later on in the season than right now. If we can continue to stack
if you can
wins,
get him back 2 weeks against Baltimore.
If we can stack wins and just play good and consistent and rely on the run game and get him back healthy in a couple weeks, I'd rather have that than try to force him out there.
Yep.
So yes, it sucks, but it's a part of football. I mean, Anthony Richardson is out for the rest of the season. You see a lot of guys that just get knocked out and then aren't the same after a major injury. I mean, that's kind of what happened to Cam with the shoulder. So let's chill. Like, we'll get him back when he's healthy, and I'd prefer that than rushing him out there.
Yeah. This is a typical Browns media and
just
fandom. People just overreacting on the quarterback play.
And it's not even only that. It's the pressure coming down from the national media that already hate him and already don't like the Browns. But then they're talking about Deshaun doesn't want to play in Cleveland anymore. He's over it. He's over that city. He's over where are you getting this from?
Yeah.
You're just thinking out loud, but you're putting it on national TV, getting millions of views, and then that trickles down to like maybe he doesn't, and now it's in the building. Fucking stop! Like it's so annoying, right?
Yeah, but like we're playing football, like, but what are we talking about? Yeah. This is the dude didn't spend the whole last 2 years fighting to get back in the game just to not want to play.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's dumb.
If that is the case, it's really stupid.
It's a poor narrative.
But it is a very bad narrative.
Yeah.
For someone that's had to regain their trust in the public eye, it's just not a good look.
Yeah.
But it's something that the media does to a lot of quarterbacks around the league.
Yeah.
But all right, let's talk football again.
Let's talk football. Let's get back to it.
Well, with Deshaun being out again, we rely on P.J. Walker, who's had not the two best games, but got the job done.
He's made plays when plays need to be made. His pass rating's horrible. He doesn't look amazing, but he makes the decisions that question me, but he also makes smart plays at some point. He doesn't have a strong arm, so the tight window pass to Elijah Moore last week was like I was praying,
Yeah.
But he made the play, and he does a lot of checkdowns, and he doesn't make dumb decisions where
he's not always forcing it.
Yeah, and which you shouldn't as PJ Walker. So, he's not the best, but he's also now dealing with a team without Jerome Ford this week and possibly next week. So, Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong are the two guys that we have. They signed was it Wilkins to the practice squad. I'm not sure if he's active roster, but I mean not much known about him. I can't.
They got him from the Colts. He filled in for Jonathan Taylor when he was hurt a couple years ago.
Deion Jackson, you're talking?
Oh, no, Wilkins.
Oh, really?
Wilkins is from the Colts as well. So I think this week is going to be very reliant on the trenches as well. Offensive line has to have a great game. This is a top 10 team in the pass rush.
Yeah.
They're very good at stopping the run.
Yeah, they only allowed, I believe, it was 2.9 yards a carry.
Yes.
So
they're and if you're allowing 2.9 yards a carry,
and if you stop the run against us, and you put it on PJ Walker's shoulders, that's not a game that I think we can win. So,
But believe it or not, Browns fans, the Browns are still ranked number 2 in rushing yards gained per game in the National Football League. With all the stuff we've been through, that is pretty crazy.
Nick Chubb.
No Nick Chubb. You lost Jerome Ford halfway through that game last week, and you had to rely on Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong.
Yeah.
Which Pierre Strong had some pretty strong runs at the end of the game.
I think he's a good back.
But let me get back to my boy PJ Walker. I cannot say this. This is another area where I think Browns fans are overreacting. We need to get this perspective right. Sure, if the idea is to go get Jacoby Brissett and bring him back, I'm all on that. I'm Team Jacoby all day. That's my quarterback.
I love Jacoby Brissett.
That's my quarterback. I said it last year. That's my quarterback. But PJ Walker, for what he's done in the last 2 games, he's 2-0. 2-0, whether that's on the defense or not. How many teams in the league have had great defenses and no quarterback? In the last 20 years, it happens every year. Sometimes you don't need that great of a quarterback. You need a game manager. And I think what PJ Walker has done, he's done enough game managing to keep them in games. What people are not realizing, last week, he had 2 80-yard drives to get them in the game. 80 yards on that final drive to win them the game. Who was there to make those 3 great throws? One to Elijah Moore, one to Amari, one to Njoku across the middle. I mean, come on, people. We need to calm down. I mean, he threw a dime to Njoku, and Njoku dropped it. I mean, it was just good coverage, but we can't put all this on PJ Walker. He threw a pick. Think about that pick. It was 3rd and 18. He launched that in the triple coverage. Look where the Colts got the ball.
The 1 yard line. It was the best punt.
It's a perfect punt.
It's a perfect punt. So yeah,
you can't even be mad at it.
It's you cannot be upset because like what is a better situation for your defense? There isn't one. And I do agree. I mean, I think if it's like long term and like wow, Deshaun's out for the year, for sure, go get someone else to salvage this year. But if you're talking like in the meantime until he's back, I think PJ at the moment is just fine. And also, I mean, I think you can't discount DTR. I think, worst case scenario, he does come in with a full week of prep and plays better. So, even with Jacoby, I don't think we are like, making it to the Super Bowl. Okay, like that's a crazy thing because also Jacoby only won 4 games last year.
Yeah, but
I know the caveat of the defense.
Yes, the defense was very awful last year. There was a lot of games last year that were costed by poor defensive play.
Very true.
The Jets game, we all remember.
No, I don't want to.
How do you give up 14 points in 30 seconds? It's not possible.
Yeah, well, Joe Woods it is.
Yeah.
But let's go over and talk about some cowtails.
Cowtails.
Yes,
Cowtail. I think
Thompson's one too.
Oh man, give it to the boy, PJ Walker.
Okay, yeah, he needs it. He needs to eat.
He just needs a solid game.
Yeah.
Even if it's like 17 for 34, 184 yards and a tutty.
This man needs a tutty because he's 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through 2 games. Yeah. He needs a touchdown.
I mean, he's had touchdowns. They were just called back on awful penalties.
Yeah.
But this man has been very solid for what you've asked him to do. And it's not like they've put him in an easy position in any of those games. You go out there and play the best team in the league. What does he do? He played well enough to get them a win.
It's true.
You ask him...
It's just good enough, and I'm fine with it.
you bring him in a shootout in Indy on the road. Very tough place to play. And what does he do? Gets you on a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
So he's got another tough challenge this week, and and heading to Seattle.
Yeah.
And a man that's got to calm us down when they have to play a very good defense in the Seattle Seahawks. Top 10 pass rush, number 18 against the pass, and probably a top 5 team against the run. So we got to look out for guys like Draymond Jones and Bobby Wagner if he's there. Very
Yeah.
talented secondary, and Witherspoon and Powell. It's gonna be a very tough game for our quarterback, but you know
Yeah.
that's why they called his number.
Yes, sir. I think for this next one, I'm gonna toss out there, and I was just debating this while you're talking. I think Amari Cooper needs to have a monster game or a great game, like 100+ yards, and he needs to be the person. If this run game cannot get started, we need Amari Cooper to really show up. And it was tough last week, but the week prior, he did really well. So we need another game like that. So Amari Cooper's getting mine because, as I said, if we get that run game and it's pretty stagnant, one, don't let up on that run game. Just keep doing it. But also Amari Cooper needs to be that guy that really finds the holes in the defense and gets some major plays for us to move the ball. Yeah. I think that's going to be critical.
All right, that's one I'm going to have to split up here. I'm giving it to the Browns secondary. Tough week last week. They kind of just had to deal with what was going on, but this is a very talented secondary, a very smart quarterback that, you have to be prepared for him to run. You got a very talented, large receiver in DK Metcalf that's going to tower over most of the guys in our secondary. And that middle of the field, they can't give that up anymore. So if they're able to hold their coverage and allow the Browns front seven to get to the quarterback, we're going to be cooking. We're going to be cooking this Sunday.
Yeah. Well, you said you were going to divide it up. What's the other?
Well, the Browns secondary.
Oh,
divide it up into.
Oh, okay. I got you. I was going to say, well, what's the other half going to?
Yeah, you got to give it to Denzel, give it to Greg, give it to MJ, give it to Juan.
Yeah.
Give it.
Yeah. Well, let's go for some Royal Donuts.
Royal Donuts.
Some keys of the game.
Stop the run.
Stop the run. Absolutely.
Stop the run.
Yeah. And
make them one-dimensional here.
And so that it gets repetitive of a concept, but it's very true and it goes a long way.
I feel like these have been very repetitive over the last couple weeks because it's been kind of the same thing every week. It's where do we start? Well, you wanna break the backbone of this team, and it's the run game, and that's what they lean on. If you force Geno to throw the ball 50 times, I think that's where the game's going to get interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to say this other Royal Donut is keep running the ball. Keep running the ball.
You said it before I said it. Run the ball.
Yeah, and it's a don't give up on it. We saw it last week, especially on the Colts side. They never stopped running the ball. And then the defense, they just kept going out there, getting tired, and they just kept going and going and going. Fourth quarter, Jonathan Taylor starts getting electric.
Yeah.
So we need that from Pierre Strong and Kareem Hunt.
Well, I'll give my props to Stefanski from this past week. They ran the ball even though it wasn't very effective.
They did.
They kept it going, and I hope to see that again this week.
I very much hope so as well.
And I think the final one is a very simple one, is pressure the quarterback. Don't let Geno have a lot of time in the pocket to make decisions. Don't let him get out of the pocket. Contain him, and you just bring that pressure. We need another big sack day from Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Big sack Garrett.
That's what he's known around town.
Big sack Garrett.
Actually, you know what? He's not going to get a cowtail. He's going to get an actual donut.
Donut.
He needs to have a monster game.
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett took control of that game last week. And if he can do that this week, I can't see an opportunity that if he does that.
Turnovers.
Yeah, we had 5 last week. So if we get that this week and we win that turnover battle, I could see us pulling this game off.
Let's do it. All right. So our new favorite segment, our Michael Lewis real estate games to watch.
Yeah.
What do you got, Mike Lewis?
Yeah, so my game is kind of a weird game. Is the Panthers versus the Texans. And the reason for this is I really want to see C.J. Stroud versus Bryce Young. As you get Bryce Young in the first overall pick, C.J. Stroud being the second overall pick, and C.J. Stroud's been playing way better than Bryce Young.
Lights out.
And, you got to see yourself like, did they pick the wrong person? Me personally, on draft day, thought they did. And this year so far has been proving that theory. So I want to see this game and see how it shakes out. But I'd really like to see Bryce Young have an awesome game this week. But also C.J. Stroud, in my head, is going to have a better game.
Yeah, well, I hope so. That Carolina team is dreadful.
That defense is rough.
Well, for me, being the big AFC North fan I am, it's hard to not go away. I'm thinking playoffs already. I'm thinking about who needs to lose and who needs to win. Well, I think it starts, I don't want to say San Francisco and Cincinnati. That's a tough one. But I'd like to head over to the Steel City, where Jacksonville, who's been very hot, go into Pittsburgh and play the Steelers that have been an enigma. I like the word enigma for them.
I don't understand how they beat the Rams last week, but whatever.
They're playing. I think they're finally playing a team that is a lot better than them. But Jacksonville can slip up in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got a very good defense.
You've seen it again and again from Jacksonville.
With who I believe is the best defensive player in the league, in T.J. Watt. I know it's up for debate, but the dude does it all. And then a weird offense ran by Matt Canada, who they've been asking for his head in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Somehow, I feel like George Pickens is just taking over the offense.
Well, when you have a quarterback that, if they keep the game close enough, the quarterback and Kenny Pickett only has to play one quarter every week. You see it every week for the Steelers. He plays one quarter.
Yeah.
And they win the game.
It comes down to 2 drives that he just literally throws it to Kenny Pickens.
George
Pickens. It's so confusing.
George Pickett and Kenny Pickens.
But he just throws it to him, and somehow he just makes these amazing catches. That big chunk plays. And they get a touchdown, 10, 15 points, or 14 points in the fourth quarter. And they're in the game. They're winning the game. And I don't know how they do it, but, it's impressive. Week in, week out, they do it. But that defense I feel like they're very much built like we are currently, except with a franchise quarterback in there. Yeah. I don't know if he's a franchise quarterback, but they're their franchise quarterback.
Yeah. All right, well, let's head over to our predictions.
Yeah. So this is a tough one I've been thinking about, man. I do think the Browns pull it off. I know I'm a homer, but I think the Browns pull it off.
He's always a homer.
I'm going to go, the 1 week I wasn't, but 27-24 Browns.
Okay, well, fortunately, I think this is a game that gets away from us. It's a tough place to play. You've asked the defense to win you games over and over and over again, but I think it's time our luck runs out here. I just, how it matches up as far as stats go, the Browns are in a very shaky position. So I'm going with the Browns on the road. Hell yeah. 17-14. It doesn't get away from them. It surprises everybody.
I'm nervous there for a second. God damn.
Oh, man. No, I think the defense is going to play well enough where they're going to get Geno shaky. And this is going to be another D-Hop game.
D-Hop.
They're going to need to win. Seattle, it's going to be nice and warm, sunny out there. They're going to be breaking out their alternates this week. They're going to be hyped, and they come out and get silenced by Myles Garrett and that Browns defense. Jim Schwartz taking it over.
Well, I know Jim's been pissed this entire weekend with the Colts, what the Colts did to them. So I know he's gonna come back for a vengeance, and I agree.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
on.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah, he's smiling. He doesn't know how to handle this.
I know I'm a cheesing right now.
Yes.
But thanks for watching again. Appreciate you guys. Go Brown, subscribe, and let's have a good Sunday. Later game, huh?
4:15. Go Browns.